this discussion forward, we have Dilip Umin, who's the President, India Steel Association, as well as the CEO at ArcelorMittal Nippon Steel, to talk a little bit more about the industrial oxygen for medical use and how steel makers have stepped in. Thank you so much for taking time out and being with us. To begin with, a lot of these steel companies, as we've seen and as my colleague highlighted, have been diverting liquid oxygen from their stock for the use of for the medical use. What's the oxygen at the current installed steel capacities that you think India can supply?
There is generally a misconception among the people that all the oxygen that is used for steel making can be used for medical purposes. It is wrong. I think you have captured the essence. There are two types of oxygen. One is the gaseous oxygen and one is the liquid oxygen. All the plants have a certain capacity of liquefying the oxygen, the liquid oxygen. Now, as far as the steel making or iron making is concerned, this requires gaseous oxygen. So what we are doing is we are supplying to the maximum extent possible. I think all the steel plants around are sending all the liquid oxygen that they are generating, including the stocks that they have, to the medical facilities as LMO. So, and the gaseous oxygen, now, there was some clamor that all the steel production should be shut. It's not going to help at all, because steel production, for iron making, they use gaseous oxygen. So, liquid oxygen we are trying to ramp up our capacity. Now, for example, in EMNS, the capacity is 160 tons per day. We have ramped it up to close to 220 tons per day as of now. So I believe all the plants in India are doing the same. We are also converting, the tankers, the cryogenic tankers for nitrogen and argon to oxygen. Therefore, we have increased the scope of logistics of transporting the liquid oxygen. I believe there is about 1,170 oxygen tankers that are available in India. Now, along with the oxygen and along with the nitrogen and argon tankers, we should be able to reach about 2,000 tankers, which will greatly help the situation.
Okay, and to what extent would this oxygen diversion affect the overall steel production, especially during the planned or even unplanned shutdowns, when the reserve of oxygen, liquid oxygen, is actually put to use by mills?
As long as the the plants must have half a day's consumption as a thumb rule, for safety stock. Now, all the generation, all the excess stock can be, like EMNS has done, we have given all the stock that we have except for that minimum safety stock. So it has negligible effect on the production. Yes, some curtailment, very limited curtailment can happen, but it's negligible. It does not affect the steel production or the iron making.
Okay. So in terms of how ArcelorMittal Nippon is contributing to this and what's its own capacity, any kind of numbers you can also put to that? I know you said it's negligible, but just to get a sense, and outside of that also on the logistical side, in terms of transporting this to medical facilities, what are some of the challenges being seen there?
See, what is happening is that the steel plants are producing about 3,500 tons of LMO per day. Now, this has to be transferred to all corners. I think the government has done well in mobilizing the Air Force, the railways to transport the oxygen to where it is needed. In addition, I must also say that we have come up with lateral thought, absolutely out of the box. The problem in India today is the logistics of moving the liquid oxygen. But we can give gaseous oxygen. So instead of taking the oxygen to the hospitals, we have started a concept called bringing the hospital to the oxygen, to the source of oxygen. So we have started a 250-bed hospital. We should be inaugurating that tomorrow or day after. We are putting it up in record time. 72 hours it has taken for us to establish upward of 250-bed COVID hospital, which is meant only for patients requiring oxygen. And roughly about 20% of the 15 to 20% of the COVID patients get admitted to the hospital. So if each of the plants do that, let's say 33, 35 generating centers, if they can, let's say, come up with 2,000 bed hospitals close by, it's scalable. You can go to 10,000. It'll take care of a lot of the challenges that we are facing today. Apart from this, we are looking at the other plants as well. They are importing cryogenic tanks and importing cylinders. We ourselves are planning to import 10,000 cylinders immediately. We are also putting to use about 6 cryogenic tanks that we had, and it was not in use. So it was being used for nitrogen. We are converting that into oxygen, and all the argon and nitrogen tankers are being converted into oxygen. For us, clearly, for us, saving lives is the highest on the agenda today for all steel makers.
Okay, of course, and it's amazing the kind of work that you're doing at the moment. From an industry point of view, and since all industries, yours included, have been banned from using O2 right now, do you see this affecting user industries, for example, metal forging?
Yes, it definitely can, and it will. But then, at least until we ramp up the production of oxygen, saving lives is more important. Let's say 6 weeks, we should be able to cope. Unless they also have a provision of gaseous oxygen, which cannot be liquefied, then it's another matter. But if they are using liquid oxygen, certainly it must go to the COVID patients first.
Sure. Dilip, how is it that you're seeing the supply and demand for steel in India being impacted because of this spike in the second wave?
See, there could be See, as of now, there is absolutely no sign. There is after the V-shaped recovery in the economy, especially in the steel consumption, the demand is very high as of now. But but we'll have to watch the situation, how this pandemic develops. If we are able to contain the onslaught of this pandemic, then we should be okay. We should be okay. But as of now, there is no abatement in the demand. It's very strong.
The other thing I wanted to talk about was also pricing. Considering, Chinese steel prices are still at a record high, how is it that you see the current scenario in India affect prices in India versus, what international prices are currently at?
See, if you look at the prices in the domestic market, it is still much lower than either the EPP, IPP, or international prices. So no one should be saying that our steel prices are very high. In fact, we are much lower than the international market. And also, I must say that the input prices have also gone up quite drastically. The iron ore prices seem to be going up every day. So the coke prices have gone up, crude prices have gone up, freight costs have gone up. So the input costs, the alloy costs are going up. It's a question of demand and supply. Let the market forces determine the prices. It's not that we are doing an intentional increase of price just to maximize profit. That's not the case. It's a question of, when these steel makers make losses, as was the case a few years back, when we are at the bottom of the cycle, there is no talk about very low prices. And it's cyclical. So now the prices, steel prices that are much lower than the international prices, I don't think anyone should be complaining.
Okay. Dilip, great having you on the show. Thank you so much for taking the time out and speaking with us today. That's the view coming in on where steel, of course, is headed as a commodity, and, of course, how the industry is gearing up to help and try and compensate for the oxygen shortage that one is seeing. 147 points higher for the Nifty futures. It's a solid 1%.